friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here for another Monday this and that video where I talk about all kinds of different things. Sometimes I'm answering questions that may have come in the past week, or just giving you updates on various experiments that I'm trying, or whatever I feel like talking about. So let's get to the topics of today, starting with the dehydrated meals. So I've been doing some experimenting, and I will be doing a separate standalone video on this, but I just want to give you a quick update of what I've been trying so far. It's not that I haven't been trying other things, like I've done the dehydrated chili and the dehydrated Tar Heel beans. If you want to know what those are, I'll link to my recipe down below. But I've also been trying a few other things. Like right here, I have some spaghetti sauce that I had, homemade spaghetti sauce I had canned years ago. And then the other day I took it out, one of the jars out, dehydrated it up, and then took half of that jar and tried it out yesterday on some spaghetti that I had just cooked up. And it was great. It rehydrated so easily. Now this one I haven't yet tried, but it is some of my homemade, home-canned salsa that I had dehydrated up. So what you're seeing in here, and it only fills up about 3/4 of the jar, and I don't have it smashed down. This is was a pint of the homemade salsa that is now reduced down to less than half a pint. So I'm positive all I got to do is add water, and it's going to be just as good as it was in the jar before I dehydrated it. This here's some chicken soup. Now I've talked about this before, and I went ahead and did another jar so I could just fill up my dehydrator. So this actually has over, I would say at least 1.5 pints of homemade soup. Now the other ones that you're not seeing that I tried was some chicken fried rice. And it did rehydrate easily, but I added too much water and it got a little mushy, but it was still decent. And then the one that surprised me the most was the lasagna. So I'd made some lasagna. I reserved about a cup of that to dehydrate so I could sample it. And it rehydrated really, really well. Again, in that one I used too much water, but it didn't turn mushy. I just had to strain out some of the excess liquid, which caused it to lose a little bit of the flavor, but for the most part, it was really good. I couldn't believe it. That was the one I thought would be most likely to turn out not very good, but I was quite impressed. Only because of all the cheese, the mozzarella, how it's really stretchy, and then you have the ricotta cheese, and then the pasta. And by the way, I cheat. Instead of using lasagna pasta like you should, I actually prefer using the farfalle. I still layer it traditionally and make my own sauce. But anyway, that turned out super good. So I'm going to be doing some more experimenting, but definitely we'll be doing that standalone video eventually. So be watching for that down the road. But I got to get this out there because the only way you're really going to find out what dehydrated meals are going to work best for you, or if they're going to work at all, is just try doing little sample sizes. So when you're dehydrating something else, take an extra tray and just throw a little bit of a few things on there. Or if it's like soup, you might only be able to do the one tray, but just give it a try, and then rehydrate it in some hot water. Just pay attention to your, I thought I was doing a pretty good guess on the amount of water, but if you put a whole cup of something in there into the dehydrator, I would assume, my guess was you'd put that in a cup and then cover it with water, the same size cup. But I still ended up with too much water. So I'd say start with a little less water so it doesn't end up mushy. But then again, you learn by just doing. And then you'll find out what's going to work best of things that you might want to have as dehydrated meals that you can take camping, or just stock your pantry with, because it's going to take up less space than the pressure canned goods. Just like with the spaghetti sauce, I'm going to do this from now on with my extra spaghetti sauce. I'm just going to, whenever I have extra or just make a big batch, I'm just going to dehydrate it. Saves so much space in the pantry. So like I said, when I had this jar about this full, and this is about a little better than a half pint because it's not a standard canning jar, and it had been a pint of spaghetti sauce, so I reduced the space it took up by less than half. And then a question I wanted to answer was, someone had asked me about the shelf stability of baking powder. I do not know the exact length of time, but one thing you have to keep in mind is baking powder has the ingredients already mixed together. The two main ingredients that go into making baking powder are baking soda and cream of tartar, which are a base and an acid. I believe it's 2 parts cream of tartar, 1 part baking soda. Usually I just use 1 and 1. But once you combine those two, it can activate even in its dry form. And so the longer it sits in that dry form, 2 different things will happen. One is, if you don't have something to keep it drier, like adding some kind of starch to it, like about a tablespoon per cup, then it will start to clump. This is why companies for a long time were adding aluminum. Thankfully, a lot of them are getting away from doing that, but aluminum is also a drying agent. That's why they would add it to baking powder. It's not naturally in baking soda like people wrongly started to assume, but it was added to baking powder to keep it from clumping. But also, after time, those things will start to basically deactivate each other, and then your baking powder won't be quite so good. This is why I stock up on baking soda and cream of tartar and keep them separate from each other. And in these 2 jars that are perpetually on my counter, I have baking soda and cream of tartar. And I just take a spoonful of each, about, a half tablespoon of each, depending on the size of whatever it is I'm making or how much. So if I need a whole tablespoon, I just take a half tablespoon of each. But if you want to be more precise, it should be 2 teaspoons of cream of tartar, if I'm remembering correctly, and 1 teaspoon of baking soda to make 1 tablespoon of baking powder. And then I just add that directly to whatever it is I'm baking, so I don't have to worry about it going bad. Because separately, they're not going to lose their leavening power. It's once they're combined over time, they will lose that. And then another update I keep meaning to give was, so you might remember in one of my Azure Standard haul videos, I had ordered a pound, which ended up being a massive bag, of catnip, because I wanted to try that as a tea. Now, I've been growing cat mint, which I thought for several years was actually catnip, until I realized there really was a difference between the two, though they both have similar health benefits. But I'd never tried catnip. I've always just used my cat mint for pain and for lowering stress levels, just kind of calming myself, and it works really good. Well, catnip does the same thing. So I thought, well, I'm going to try some. I'm going to see if I notice any difference. Now I did. I've made a couple of pots of tea out of the catnip. And what I found was I didn't notice any difference. I'm not saying it wouldn't be different for somebody else, but I didn't notice any difference as far as it being more calming than the cat mint. But what I did notice the difference of is I didn't like the flavor of the catnip near as much as the cat mint. Now, cat mint isn't my favorite herbal tea, but I definitely like the flavor of it by itself more than I do the catnip. So the only way you're going to learn that one for yourself is if you try them side by side. But one of the reasons I bought it was I wanted to decide, is it going to be worth it for me to sacrifice garden space for catnip when I already have the cat mint? And I love the plant. It's a prettier plant. It doesn't get as sprawly the way that catnip gets. And why sacrifice space for that when I could use it for something else? So I won't be sacrificing garden space for catnip when I love my cat mint. But if you'd like to learn more about the benefits, I do have a video. Just keep in mind, when I did that video, I still was unsure of what the differences was of appearance of cat mint and catnip. So I'm still calling everything catnip, but just so you know. But I'll link to that video down below. And then another question I get this one quite a bit, is people ask me if I have a recipe out for homemade shampoo. Well, I do. I actually used to have two, but I ended up taking one down just to be on the safe side because of something I mentioned in that video that I'm not allowed to talk about on YouTube anymore. But I actually stopped making my homemade shampoo because I found out it was really kind of a waste of time to do that. So what I do to wash my hair, actually maybe as much as 95% of the time, I'm using nothing but my homemade vinegar. But keep in mind, I also have very dry hair. If you have naturally very oily hair, you may still want to use the vinegar as a finishing rinse, that because it will condition the hair, but you may be better off using a natural soap. So you can use your own homemade soap, homemade bar soap. And a lot of people have these fancy recipes for a shampoo bar soap. You don't have to do that. It can be however you want it. It's still going to be good. I mean, you can add certain types of fats to make it more nourishing, conditioning, or herbs and so on. But I just use a plain bar soap. I do that sometimes, but I also, one of my other favorite things to use when I just, this is maybe once every 6 weeks, I will, when I do use soap at all, I also like to use Dr. Jacob's soap, which is very similar to Dr. Bronner's, but I prefer it. I always have a link in the description box, and you can get, I forget what the percentage is, but if you go through that link, and there might even be a coupon code provided, you can get a percentage off your order. My two favorites now, well, my three favorites are the honey almond, the clary sage lavender. It just smells so wonderful. It doesn't sound like it would smell wonderful, but it's amazing. And then the Central Illinois, which has a very tropical smell. Take an 8-ounce bottle. I put just a little bit of the soap in there, just a squirt, top it off with water, shake it, and then just squirt it through my hair. That's just if I feel my hair needs just a little getting off, maybe getting out some extra oils that may have built up or whatever, but it's not very often. Mostly the vinegar does well enough. And so you can either just use the bar soap as is, just soap up like you would when you're washing your face or anything else, and then just work it through your hair. You don't have to go through the trouble of making it into a liquid soap, and it will work just fine. And if you'd like more information about using vinegar as a hair wash, I'll link to that video in the description box down below as well. And then I just want to let you guys know, if you haven't been catching my live shows, I did recently do a video on gearing up for gardening season. I am really looking forward to this 2025 garden season. So I'll link you back to the live show I did. I will also have a standalone video coming out that we'll be publishing on my second channel very soon. Maybe in a couple weeks. I don't remember how far out it is. But if you don't want to watch the live show, when I take a chunk out of a live show, I then just kind of narrow it down to just the topic or topics that that my focus is on, and cut out all the extra chatter, add in some photos, so that way people want a more abbreviated version, I do that. So if I do the live show on Rain Country 2, I'll take that and put it here on Rain Country 1, and vice versa, that shortened version. But anyway, you can go check out the live show or wait for that shortened version to come out on my second channel. And if you're not subscribed to my second channel yet, Rain Country 2, I tried to keep the name simple so you guys would know it's still me. Please do so. It is linked in the description box down below, right along with my Rumble channel. I do recommend you subscribe to both, just in case anything happens to my first YouTube channel, my main channel, the one I've been building on for over 8.5 years. Then you'll at least know other places that you can find me. Now, I do also want to say, as of the time that I'm shooting this video, which is the Wednesday before it publishes, I am up to 2,200 watch hours on my second channel. This is thanks to so many people that have just been putting in that extra time to help me build that channel, to get it to the point that I could monetize and make it more worth my time that I've been pouring into getting that channel set up. I created the second channel as a backup, but also have decided I'd make it a habit to put a couple of videos out in some form on there each week. So right now I'm up to doing one live on Wednesday, one short on Fridays, and then on Sundays I'll publish whatever the video is that came from a live show on the main channel. And then of course I also take all of those and put them on Rumble, since at this time I'm not doing live shows on Rumble. Well, that way people who only watch on Rumble can see at least that part. But anyway, those are 3 things I'm doing, but I'm also taking like some older videos from 2016, 2017, remastering them and putting them over there. So right now, as I'm shooting this, I'm in the middle of remastering a video that Patrick and I shot in 2017. And it was originally part of a collaboration on lessons learned in the first year of homesteading. And I thought, oh, this is an interesting one. I haven't seen this in a long time. So much has changed since then. And somebody also recommended that Patrick and I shoot a video on, just like an update on all the things that have changed since I started my channel, at least, or at least since we started this venture back in 2010. I was thinking it was 2012, but in listening to myself in that video, I guess we really started getting it off the ground back in 2010. I was thinking it hadn't been quite that long, but so 14, 15 years now. So anyway, yeah, so hopefully that's something that Patrick and I can arrange to do together, either as a live show or a separate pre-recorded video. I think that would be a really good topic to do. But anyway, so yeah, if you want to see some of those remastered videos that I'm putting up over there, I've been putting some here, but now with the second channel, I'm doing some different ones over there. And you guys may enjoy that. And then also keep in mind that I still use my brake bleeder pump and the food saver tops or the vacuum chamber that Patrick built for vacuum sealing jars. The vacuum chamber I use for jars that aren't like a standard candy size jar mouth. So I can, any recycled jar, usually it's green olive jars, things like that with lug lids. But those are the main things I use for vacuum sealing. Now I've tried different things. I've even bought a few different things to just kind of sample them out. But I always keep coming back to the brake bleeder pump that I just put a short out on, that I'll put right here, showing me vacuum sealing some hazelnuts. And it's still my favorite way to do that. Over some of the other little things that I bought, that one to me is still the most sturdy, best way to do it, in my personal opinion. However, I will probably do an update video going over some of the different options again, because there's even more new ones out there since I shot that video a couple of years ago. And just go into a little bit more detail about some of these other things if you would like to learn more. Until then, though, I'll go ahead and link to the older video I did on options for vacuum sealing, and this is specifically for jars, so you can at least kind of have an idea of what's out there, what's available to you. So anyway, that's it for my this and that for the week, and I hope you enjoyed this video and that I start seeing some of you guys on Rain Country 2 and or on Rumble, and maybe even on my live shows if you haven't stopped in. I know doesn't always work time-wise for everyone, so a lot of you just come in and watch a replay. I appreciate that too. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.